So maybe just like what did you notice from that point once I actually gave you permission? Yes, I was transparent. I would fill you in. I would try and, share different things about what's going on financially and why this is working or that's not working. But when I actually gave you permission in my heart, like, hey, I need help and I want you to help.
It was just more about accountability to each other of like, I think asking the deeper questions of like, why do we spend money on certain things and why don't we? Or why do we make a certain amount of money and what are we going to do with it? How do we steward it? And I think the change was like just the heart posture. Like it was like something switched to where it was like, actually, no, this is about something completely different than just like making money and spending money or making money and saving money. It was like, no, actually, it's like there's something more to this whole money thing as a couple. But for sure, it was more about like accountability to each other of like, hey, this is actually how we want to live and not be tied to someone else or something else because we owe money, or like not be able to do the things that we feel called to do because of finances. And when we're strapped down, it makes it harder for us to like accomplish those things.
Yeah, and I mean, just like on a practical level, like I witnessed couples growing up who one would feel controlled by the other because of money. And so I think naturally what I did as a defense mechanism is I became transparent and shared everything with you, but I never wanted to be controlled in my financial decisions by you.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until I came to the realization that I couldn't make the best decisions by myself. And by the way, this wasn't like I was rogue. I was asking God, like I was like, Lord, I need help.
Yeah.
Like I was like, you're helping me in this way. I don't know how I can do what I need to do in this way.
Right.
And it always came back to like you. It was like you were the it's one thing to go to God and be like, God, I need help. And it's another thing. He's like, I gave you a wife. Like, and I kept saying that to the Lord. I was like, you gave me a wife. Like, you changed my heart. You changed so much inside. You brought me through so much healing. I've had all these things happen. Why is this part of my life being so stubborn? And I say stubborn, I didn't share a lot of context for it, but like the financial aspect, wealth creation's been great. My management of that wealth creation, very poor. For a variety of reasons. And so, as a result, I found myself just beating myself up all the time. And you were on the receiving end of that in the sense that when I'm beaten down, I don't have any emotional availability for our relationship.
Yeah. And I definitely, I could say I totally emotionally tapped out at that point. I think I was going through so much internal wrestle and then also not working myself. I was like hot mess. But like I think at that point I was like, I'm just gonna like let you do it. I kind of like disengaged because I was like, oh, you're not gonna let me in, so I'm just gonna, I think that's another reason why I wish I was like, oh, I just wish I would have snapped out of what I was in my swirl of and like just been like, no, actually, like my husband needs me by his side. I need to help him. How do I do it? Instead of being like, I'm just going to go do my thing and he can do his thing.
Yeah, because when we got married, I was locked in like, okay, I'm doing this life coaching thing. I'm growing. I'm growing a business was my mindset. I'm doing this. I'm going full steam. I just need to solve it. Business problem A, business problem B. And I kept coming back to it and I was like, why am I not able to solve business problem A? And there were so many other things, by the way, happening on the sidelines that were actually the main event, reconnecting with biological family, going through this healing journey, all of that, getting married, moving across the country, all of that stuff. So that's happening. And we're learning how to do everything together, life together, let alone this aspect of life, money. And so I think when you put all those things in one place and you start, navigating what adjustments look like together, money was one of these ones that it just seemed like we couldn't find the adjustment we needed to make together. So health, where we live, what we do on a day-to-day basis, all these things, you know, how we connect as a couple, what we need, you know, all of these things we were kind of, oh, these are adjustments we need. But for whatever reason, like money was not getting the adjustment it needed. And it started with me. It started with me not being able to give you permission or even know that was an attitude thing for me.
Yeah, for sure. And I think another adjustment was like the intention behind inviting God into money-making decisions was a huge change. I feel like when we were more of like, oh, okay, like, you know, he was always a part of it, but like I'm still relying on a lot of like my own wisdom and intellect to like guide me through, you know, of like, oh, I'm just gonna...
I was doing that.
But that includes both of us because we weren't doing it together. We weren't being like, let's, like, do we need to hire this person? Do we need to pay for this course? Do we need to do this thing? It's like, sometimes we would just like jump in and do it and then be like, actually, we don't need to do that quite yet. Maybe in due time, like, or maybe like, you know, just like actually like in bigger decisions, how do we involve God into it even more in the process? I think was like a huge step for both of us together, being like, okay, like this is, we want to do this and pray and ask and like actually not rush because there's no reason to rush.
That's one thing I've learned from Savannah for sure. But something that's important is that you're hearing Savannah take responsibility for something that I feel responsible for, which is she didn't come into marriage with any debt, right? Yeah. She didn't make any decisions about putting money towards certain places where if it didn't create a return, it could put us back, right? And so when I would come to the end of the day and be like, dang, okay, you know, there's a little bit of pressure on us because of a decision that I made. I had kind of gotten to the point where I was like, honestly, just after years and years of just trying to navigate how to figure out what adjustments need to be made, I was getting tired and it was starting to affect our relationship. But I think the thing that I didn't want to do is I didn't want to blame her because I didn't feel like she was responsible. Yet at the same time, she takes responsibility because she is in this marriage, right? And I think that's something that's super important for people to realize. It's different when you're dating than when you're married. You would not do that if we were dating.
No.
And you didn't. But when we got married, she then started realizing this is my responsibility to help my husband navigate some of these decisions.
Yeah, because that's what marriage is about. Not fully, but it's like that's a huge part of like why you're like, let's do life together. Like you make me a better person and vice versa. So it's like, and that covers in every area of your life. It's like, why hide from one of those categories? So yeah, it's whatever affects you affects me, right? Like it just, that's how it happens. And decisions, small or little, usually sometimes the small decisions are the bigger decisions. They add up, you know. It's like no matter what they are, they affect both of us.
Yeah,